Hi, this is Leanna with iMore.com, and I'm going to give you a tutorial on how to use iPhoto for the iPhone and iPad to turn this photo into that photo. Okay, so we're in iPhoto, and I have browsed to the original photo and my camera roll. Now, I recommend hiding your thumbnails so you have a more focused area to work with. No distractions. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually critique my image. I don't know how I want to edit it until I know what's wrong with it. So the first thing I notice is that this orientation isn't really working for me. The actual subject of my photo is the flame. It's not the candle, it's the actual flame. That's the main element of my photo. So if I want to draw the attention to that, I can see that it would be better if it was a horizontal orientation versus vertical. So that's going to be the first thing I look to do, is to make this a horizontal orientation. The other big issue with this problem is, with this photo, is that it's just flooded with distractions. I've got a person here, I've got balloons and windows, a person back there. These are all very distracting elements of my photo that draw away from the actual really cool part, which is the candle, specifically the flame. So I also do want to point out that I intentionally composed this shot so that there wasn't a person behind my candle, because I knew later on I could probably edit this to be pretty cool. So now let's go ahead and crop this image. We're going to start with cropping. So we tap down here, this is to crop, and if I hit settings, I will see a list of different crops that I can do. You can go ahead and make up your own crop, but I always recommend picking one of these traditional crops that have been proven to be, appealing to the eye. So with this particular image, I would say it's really important to make sure I get the dripping wax, because although that may not be the subject of my image, it's a very interesting part of my image, so I don't want to crop that out. So for example, if I chose 3:2, this crop is too tight. I'm chopping off my flame, I'm chopping that off down there. So I don't even want to consider this one as an option. 4:3 looks like it might work, but it's still it's kind of tight. Of course, anything that's long and skinny isn't gonna do it. So it turns out that 8:10 I believe is the best choice here. Then you can go ahead and hit this button. This locks it so you don't accidentally change the ratio. And you can adjust exactly where you want the image to lie. Let's not be too picky here. I'm just going to put it there. Remember about the rule of thirds. So let's actually make sure we put it here. So my candle lies on that, that left third. And now I'm actually going to make sure that my image is straight. So tapping this lets me look at my more grid lines to see if my candle is straight. In fact, it looks like it might be slightly tilting to the right, so I'm going to go ahead and adjust that a bit and make sure that my candle is lined up with my grid, and I'm going to put it about there. If you look closely now, you can see it's lined up nicely. It wasn't a huge difference, but it's something. Okay, so now I am done cropping this image. Let's go ahead and edit some of the exposure tools. So to do that, I tap the exposure icon. And what this screen tells me is if I move this, it's going to adjust my exposure. If I move this, it's going to adjust my contrast. And if I move this, it's going to adjust my shadows. And this one does my highlights. So I'm actually not going to touch the exposure. I'm happy with this exposure. Here, let me see if I can make it look a little better. There we go, that's a little better. So I'm actually happy with this exposure, but let's go ahead and see what happens when I adjust the contrast. So adjusting the contrast makes, as far as my subject is concerned, it makes it a lot brighter, it makes my candle redder, it makes the flame even wider than it is. So that's actually all bad stuff that's happening. The good thing that's happening is my background is getting dark, and it's saying goodbye to all of those distractions. But I don't want to go all the way because my candle just looks a little overdone, a little over processed. So I want to do about a third. I recommend go about to where you think it looks good and then go a tiny bit less, because there's a good chance that you might still be thinking something that's overdone looks good. So I'm going to go to about a third. I think this right here looks pretty good, but I'm going to go a tiny bit less. Next, I'm going to adjust my shadows because it's the shadows that I want darker, right? So, and let's go ahead and adjust this again so you can see a little bit more what's going on with the background. You can still see I've got a lot of distractions back there. So I'm going to go ahead and darken my shadows with this. Now again, this is still having some effect on my candle. Like, I don't necessarily like everything that's happening to my candle with this. So I'm going to go about halfway in between. It does a good number on my shadows, but I'm also still keeping the candle to look okay. Okay. Now at this point, I typically like to see what does the difference, what has actually happened so far. So again, I'm going to adjust the exposure on the video here so that hopefully shows you more. And tapping this button up here reverts to the original and then the new. Okay, so now next on here as far as my options is to do color adjustment. I'm actually happy with my color. I'm not going to change anything. The candle is a bit red, but that's what candles look like because it's fire. So I kind of like how my candle looks. So next up is brushes. And this is where I can go to further darken my image. So I'm going to click darken, or tap darken, and I'm going to come over here to settings and I'm going to turn show strokes to on. This lets me really see exactly what I'm doing. So if I apply a stroke, it shows up red. Now one light stroke comes out very light, and the more I go over an area, the darker it becomes. So the darker the red, the ultimately darker my image will appear. I'm applying that effect more heavily. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to darken all of this, and I'm going to do my best to try to blend so that it slowly blends into being really dark and to not being used, the effect being applied at all. So here we go. Okay, so I think I've done an okay job here. Also notice that if you tap up here, you can undo something, like if I accidentally went across my candle, which apparently that didn't work, I could undo it. I can also erase strokes with the eraser if I wanted to get rid of something. I'm going to go ahead and undo that. Notice that this is a very memory intensive thing, so sometimes you might notice iPhoto to lag a little bit. This is normal. It's annoying, but it's still normal. So this is now when you're going to turn off your strokes and see what it looked like. There's a good chance you may still need to make some adjustments after this, so we're going to turn off the strokes and see what we've got. So again, I'm going to adjust the exposure on this video so you can see a little bit better of the dark areas. And it actually looks like I did a decent job here. Granted, I will admit I've done this several times already in preparation for this video. So, however, it does look like there's still something back there. There's still someone back there. Maybe I can darken a little bit more. There's still this thing over here, and there's definitely still all this white. However, you saw that I did that pretty heavily. I can try to do it a little bit more. And I also saw that face over there, right around here, that I want to get rid of. So now I'm going to go through and make those few changes. Alright, let's see what that has done. Okay, looks a little better. I can still kind of see some stuff back there. So let's go ahead and readjust this video so you can see everything. Sorry about this, by the way. This image has such a dynamic range of lights that I have to keep changing it for you. So I can't apply the layer any thicker, but what I can do is apply, increase the intensity. So I'm actually going to bring this to all the way full intensity darken. And now you can see this guy over there, again, I'm going to touch the video, is gone. You can't see that area anymore. You can still see this though. And the windows are still a little bit distracting. So we do still have some distracting elements to this image that I would like to take care of. That's why we're going to explore what options we have for filters. Before we do this though, let's actually go ahead and take a look at our before and after, because this is always really fun to do. Let's wait for the spinning to end. There we go. Oops. There's before, and here's after. It's already looking way, way better. So now let's go ahead and take a look at our filters. I've narrowed it down to 2 that I think are good. So one of them is from the vintage category, and it's the third one. So I really like this one. What I like about this one is that it does a really good job of hiding this over here. Again, let's adjust the video. It does a really good job of hiding what I can still see over there. I can also see that I can apply the vignetting, which also helps darken around. So let's see, remove the effect, and here is, oops, reapplying the effect. This one also does make this look a little bit more intense, and it reddens my already red candle. So that's one of the disadvantages to this one. It also did a pretty good job of dimming my windows some. The other one I found to be a good choice is from the artistic category, and again, the third choice. Now this one does an awesome job with the windows up here, but less of an awesome job of the white shirt that's still showing over there. But I like how this one makes my candle look. It kind of gets rid of some of that flare, which is arguably kind of cool in some ways, so you may prefer it. I kind of liked how it made my my flame a little bit more defined and a little bit more sharp. So I kind of prefer this filter, but this over here is still definitely bothering me. What I ended up doing is saving this. Actually, if you save to your camera roll and reopen into iPhoto, iPhoto isn't going to let you make extra edits. It's going to recognize this as the same photo. So what I did to get around that is I emailed it to myself and then saved to my camera roll and opened that again in Photoshop. And I went through the darkening process on this image all over again over here, and it actually came out pretty good. So make sure you check out the post to see what my final result looked like. But at this point, I'm going to say we're done. I don't need to show you anything else. And as far as improvements, I think we've made some great improvements with this photo. So again, let's look at the original. That's before it was cropped and everything. And the final result. Thank you. I am Leanna with iMore.com.